you to bleed for me.
Welcome in, everybody. Happy Tuesday evening. When you hear that AC/DC, you know what that means. That means it's time for another episode of Shoot, Another Flyers Show. I'm your host, Chris Babos with Philadelphia Sports Network, and we're here to take you around the world of the Flyers here in the offseason of 2025. With Cam York signed, is Danny Briere done for the offseason? And then we'll touch on an important topic around these parts. A major hockey star set to appear in Pennsylvania next season. That's right. It's the announcement's about to be made probably any minute now on ESPN, but I'm live here with you, so I can't check that out. But that's going to be Gavin McKenna expected to commit to Penn State University. I wrote an article for the Hockey Writers yesterday on the topic, so go ahead and check that out. It's titled Potential 2026 First Overall Pick Gavin McKenna Reportedly Commits to Penn State. Huge acquisition. That's where our guest comes from. He graduated from PSU last year, Will James at Philly Hockey now, but we'll get to that in just a minute. First, we're going to start with the Cam York deal. Cam York signed with the Philadelphia Flyers, 5 years, $5.1 million annual average set value. His 25 through 29-year-old seasons, and it walks into free agency at the age of 29, which really is a fair deal for both sides, all things considered. No trade protection in the deal, which is something that is fairly rare, it seems, nowadays for highly prized re-signings. Maybe less so at the restricted free agent level, but definitely just in the hockey market. You tend to see some of those bottom six defensemen sometimes get those limited no move or limited no trade clauses, and it's one of the things that Danny Briere was able to keep out of this deal with Cam York. York plays first defensive line minutes alongside of Travis Sanheim. About 20 minutes a night or so. Sanheim's closer to about 24. But Sanheim gets the power play and the penalty kill time that Cam York really didn't see all of that much under John Tortorella. So from that standpoint, it seems like a fair deal. Shout out to Dom Lecision of The Athletic and Hockey's, it was Evolving Hockey Stat Cards. I want to make sure I get it right. They have the market value on Cam York's contract at $5.7 million. The contract comes in at 5.1, 5.2 mil. So definitely a win for Danny Briere getting that deal done and having Cam York, a 25-year-old defenseman, now able to just focus on improving in Philadelphia. Whether he stays on the top line under the Rick Tocchet system, it'll be difficult to say, especially if Philadelphia is not able to go out there and find a right-handed defenseman to pair with Sanheim. But at this rate, the duo seems to play well together, and it'll be interesting to see how that transitions into next season. So that transitions us into, is Danny Briere done for the season? He hired Rick Tocchet to set the tone in Philadelphia. Trades for Trevor Zegras ahead of the NHL Draft for Ryan Poehling, a second-round pick in 25 and a fourth-round pick in 26. He picked up an absolute haul at the 2025 draft, Porter Martone falling down to number 6 overall, trading up to grab Jack Nesbitt, and then sitting pretty in the second round. Carter Amico, Jack Murtaugh, Shane Versace, all now Philadelphia Flyers. And I had the chance to see 4 out of the 5 skate over the last couple of days at Flyers Training Center, and it was quite eye-opening. Porter Martone looks every bit of what they described him in the pre-scout process. Absolutely wild shot. Probably it's going to be able to improve his skating as he strengthens up, as he grows into his body, because he's still a young player. But his high level skills are definitely there. That was impressive. Jack Nesbitt, again, gonna take some work, but if he can fill that second to third line hole in the Philadelphia organization at center, then again, that's a pretty good draft pick for Danny Briere there. And then the second round, you always take your shots in the second round. They got three good opportunities there. Carter Amico on the blue line, Murtaugh and Vitsagi up front. So Danny Briere should be pretty happy with the 2025 NHL draft for the Flyers. And then you have a player that was drafted less recently by Philadelphia, and that's Alex Bump. Alex Bump was by far and away the best player at 2025 Flyers development camp this week. He was on the second practice team. I'm not entirely sure if they had a split between Team Briere and Team Jones, but if they did, he was clearly the best player on his team. Wasn't even close. Martone kind of had a similar look in the first squad unit, where he was just where the eye happened to go to, where most of the skill seemed to be. But when Alex Bump took the ice and at the 3-on-3 tournament on Sunday, he was just all over the place. Scored a gorgeous goal right in front of me, near the side of the net. So definitely somebody to look out for as he gets ready to turn pro. As Alex Bump, whether that's going to be for the Flyers or in Lehigh Valley, it's yet to be seen. But definitely a player that Flyers fans should be excited about is Bump. And then, of course, in free agency on July 1st, adding Christian Dvorak to the 1-year, $5 million contract. Dan Vladar, 2 years, $3.35 million, $3.35 million. Those deals aren't going to hurt Philadelphia in any way. Leaves some limited cap space for Danny Briere to deal with, just over 400 or just under 400,000 in cap space heading into the rest of the free agency offseason. So there is still some room for cap space or for some trades via the cap space. Ryan Ellis, $6.5 million, eligible for LTIR. 2 years left in that deal. He's not going to play for the Flyers again, from everything I've ever heard. Ivan Fedotov, $3.5 million, can get buried down in the AHL if need be, to save some money on the cap. And then next offseason, 2026, $7 million comes off of the Flyers books. Kevin Hayes and Scott Lawton on the salary trade retentions, and then the buyout of Cam Atkinson at $1.75 million. So Flyers will be a little more flush with cash next offseason, and there's a decent number of prospects, including Connor McDavid. Whether or not he reaches free agency, that's yet to be seen. I personally doubt it, but if, and it's a big if there is a free agent class that's worthwhile in 2026, the Flyers will at least have the money to spend. And with Rick Tocchet in town, it definitely could have the possibility of being a destination in the NHL next off season. And then next off season is the Gavin McKenna show around the NHL. This off season, it was more about Schaefer. It's more about Higgins. It's more about Martone, and where they find their footing in the NHL. But next year, 2025, 2026, the NCAA is going to be an absolute banger to watch. Whether it's Penn State, Michigan State, whether it's Boston College, Boston University, Minnesota, UMD. I mean, you can go down the board. It's going to be absolutely fantastic hockey. And with the rule changes, a lot better caliber of players entering the NCAA. Case in point, Gavin McKenna. Last year, played for the Medicine Hat Tigers in the Western Hockey League, the WHL, had 129 points in 56 games. He had an over 50 game point streak. He's now taking those talents to Happy Valley. And that's something for Pennsylvania hockey fans to get excited about. Whether or not you're going to be able to make the trip up to Beulah Ice Arena, all the way up there in Happy Valley. That's tough. That's tough for me as somebody in South Jersey. But the fact that the number one overall pick, which could be egg on my face right now, I don't know. I don't have ESPN on, but if he does indeed go to Penn State, that is a massive acquisition. Massive acquisition. for the Penn State Nittany Lions. That should transition us pretty well into our sit-down interview with Will James of Philly Hockey Now. I had the chance to sit down with him a little bit earlier today. We talked a lot about what I kind of ran through here in the first 10 minutes, the Flyers offseason, what Danny Briere has done, touched on the Cam York contract a little bit, and then we talked about the school that he graduated from last offseason, and that's Penn State, and them potentially getting Gavin McKenna. So thank you very much for staying tuned with Shoot Another Flyer Show, and our interview with Will James. We'll be back to wrap up the show in about 15, 20 minutes or so. Welcome back inside Shoot Another Flyer Show. We're joined by a returning guest. We've got Will James from Philly Hockey Now. Will, it's been a bit of an off season and an exciting one at that in Flyers land. How you doing?
I'm doing pretty good. And I think you kind of hit it yourself. You said exciting off season. I mean, it started out pretty much as exciting as it could get, right? I mean,
yeah, absolutely. The hiring of Rick Tocchet, the trade for Zegras, and then a whole slew of assets at the draft.
No, absolutely. And I don't think shouldn't be too far down the list, but you get 3 RFAs re-signed on relatively team-friendly deals.
Mm-hmm. And we'll jump right into that one with the Cam York extension coming down yesterday, 5-year deal, $5.1 million for a defenseman that's been playing top-line minutes in Philadelphia alongside Travis Sanheim, and he wasn't really getting any special teams time, or at least power play time, due to a disagreement with the head coach. So you would imagine that those values hopefully should go up across the board under Rick Tocchet.
Oh, absolutely. I think Cam York is going to, I wouldn't necessarily say thrive, but you're going to see more of a return of where Cam York wants to be himself, but also what the fan base was starting to expect out of him. He's not going to be just your one-way defensive defenseman anymore. I think he will get a little bit of a return to the power play, and he should. The Flyers need to try anything they can to get that back on track, and if it means finding a new quarterback for the power play, then it means finding a new quarterback for the power play. So let Cam York get back there and, run the show a little bit and see what he can do. See if he can bring any momentum back to the power play. But he should absolutely be getting back on the power play. As far as his game goes, I like how you said played top line minutes, because he's not a top pair defenseman. I do think wholeheartedly he's the top 4 defenseman, but he's not a top pair defenseman. But he plays top pair minutes, and that's one of the most important things is he plays, and he gets a lot of hate. I think he might be a scapegoat, more or less, of the Flyers blue line group. Cam York is not a bad defenseman. Again, not a top pair defenseman, but getting him locked up for 5, and it was what, $5.15 million a year. That contract's going to age very, very well because they didn't put too high of a number on it. I thought heading into this season, I think it was DeMarco reported it, saying that he was looking at something like Travis Sanheim, 6.25. They got him locked up for shorter term and a little bit over $1 million less than that a year. That's with the rising cap too. I think that's a pretty big win for the Flyers front office. And I think for Cam York, getting 5 years is also a pretty big deal for him as well, because he's on a deal now. It's, I would say, pretty justified in all directions of it. I don't know if you'd agree with that, but
yeah, I would agree with that.
Yeah, it's a fair contract, and it's going to bring him to his age 30 season.
I believe so, yeah.
And then he'll go
and age 29. So
age 29, and the cap
is
going to
still in line for another solid deal.
Yeah. When the cap is completely over, he could double his AAV in his next contract. Not even if he extremely increases his play, but just because of how much the cap increases. So I think that's something that they might have pitched him on. I don't know. That's just general speculation, but I mean, that contract itself is going to age very, very well for the Flyers.
Other speculation has to be, how important is it to have a couple of buddies on the team? Jamie Drysdale, the new incomer Trevor Zegras, and you've got Drysdale's RFA status next season. You've got, I believe, Zegras is a UFA or is he an RFA next year?
RFA. He's got one.
He's an RFA. So, I mean, at that point, you've got at least conceivably probably 2 seasons with a pair of really good friends. Has to just make a difference in that room that Philadelphia is building, and the culture, that family environment that Stanley Cup teams tend to have.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think it's always a joking thing to say the power of friendship, but in all honesty, you see 3 guys who could really use a lift from one another, because you have Zegras, who is in need for a really big bounce back year after 2 straight down years in Anaheim. Jamie Drysdale still has monumental steps to make in his development, but it has to help knowing that he's got 2 of his best friends by his side while he's doing it. And Cam York, too. Again, he was just a shell of himself last season. He really needs to turn things around, especially now that he's got his extension, and a 5-year extension at that. So I think having the 3 of them together, if anything, in the very slightest, helps make everybody significantly more comfortable, which can really help you take strides. Because I think I can't go off the top of my head right now, but Cam York had said something about not thinking when he's on the ice, and that's when he plays his best, when he's just thinking about hockey, right? When you have your friends out there with you, it kind of, I know they weren't childhood friends, but it almost takes you back to that childhood game, which can really help reset everything. And I wouldn't say big years for everybody, but I certainly think having the 3 of them together would help bring things back up a notch for them.
I absolutely agree with that. So shifting slightly to just the fact that it would now appear Danny Briere is done for the offseason. We touched on the trade for Trevor Zegras. They hired Rick Tocchet. They grabbed Martone happily as he fell down the draft board, which I had the chance to get some eyes on him at Dev Camp. And man, he's going to be good. We'll just put it that way. Despite wherever he ends up playing this season, whether it's the NCAA, whether it's making a bid for the Flyers roster, Martone's going to be good. Jack Nesbitt is going to be just fine. Yes, I understand that they traded up to get him. They traded 2 first-round picks. Holy crap. The kid is a player, and he's got size, which is something that the Flyers prospect pool needed. Okay. So right there in those 2 first-round picks, getting the chance to see them up close, Danny Briere seems to have hit a home run when you're kind of trying to project 3 to 5 years down the road.
No, absolutely. And I think looking at this offseason as a whole, I think, again, I touched on it earlier, but locking up Cates on a 4x4, and I forget exactly what Forster's salary was, but it was pretty team friendly as well. You want to
I have it up here, so if you give me a second, I can find it.
Regardless, I continue the point while you look that up. He locked up 2 RFAs right away that I thought were going to drag out and try to get some bigger contracts. And I will say Cates getting 4 might have been a touch high, but Forster, I remember being significantly shocked.
Yeah, Forster's at 2 at 3.75.
Yeah.
So it's wild.
Getting that done early was really important for Danny to be able to focus on what was at hand. I thought Cam York took a little while to come together, especially since it went into free agency. He was able to talk to other teams. But being able to get him on that 5.15 was absolutely huge. And going back a little bit further, trading for Trevor Zegras should not have been as easy as it was.
Oh God, no.
Anaheim
bungled that so bad.
I don't understand what exactly happened there. Ryan Paling's a hell of a player. I think.
No disrespect.
Anything, that trade was more of a signal of where Anaheim's headed, not the Flyers. Because to me, that showed that Anaheim is making the playoffs next year. They think that they are ready to start adding veterans that aren't going to bring them over the edge, but will do the things that you need them to do down lower in the lineup, be an energy guy or be a shutdown defensive guy. And that's what Ryan Paling can do. He has we saw the flashy scoring that he can provide last season. I think we'll do that for Anaheim. But getting Trevor Zegras for Paling, a second, and what was it? pick
in the
swap.
6th, I think, or something like
Yeah,
that.
a late round pick that
Yeah.
just should not have been a possibility.
And not even one of the better seconds.
Yeah, no, it wasn't.
Which
They didn't even ask for
yeah,
second back. I thought that would have been.
it was a masterclass of a trade. Just before we lose the point on this one, you mentioned that Cam York went to RFA status. He signed a $5.1 million deal. Compensation for that from another team, let's say another team signed him to that, which it would have been up to $7 million, would have been a first and a third. I think Philadelphia would have taken that and ran. No disrespect in any way to Cam York, but if somebody was going to come calling and say, hey, Cam, we're going to give you a $6.2 million deal like Sanheim, I think Danny Barrera would have been like, thanks for the first and the third in 2026.
And I wonder, with all of the hype about offer sheets, sorry, I know we're getting a little bit off guard here. I wonder if that giving up a first, especially next year's first, really was off-putting the teams for wanting to pursue offer sheets because they didn't want to lose their chance.
It has to be. I mean, look at what happened with the New York Islanders this season.
Yeah,
they almost make the playoffs, and they still end up with Matthew Schaefer.
But I guess getting back on track a little bit here, I think if you take everything out, take names, contract, everything, and you look at the big picture as a whole and think Danny re-signed his 3 biggest free agents, whether they were UFA, RFA, he re-signed his 3 biggest free agents. He went out and he traded for a top 6 center, which is really hard to do. Drafted arguably the 2nd or 3rd best player in an entire draft class at 6th overall, but regardless, picked the best player available at the pick and still found a way to move up and get someone that fills 2 big needs in the Flyers prospect pool. That sounds like a big win of an offseason already. And then you look into free agency and you think, what were their big needs there? Center, goalie, defense. And they addressed all 3. Now, I have my opinions on that as well. But again, take everything out of all names, contract, everything like that. You just think of what they brought in. He did his job and he did it well. He filled everything.
I haven't read this story yet, but Kevin Kerr's put out a tweet. He's like, if Vladar is just league average next season, the Flyers will have a double-digit improvement in the points.
Yeah,
and that makes a big difference at the end of the year.
Yep.
They got no goaltending whatsoever out of Fedotov, out of Kolosov, and even Ersan struggled, which is a real shame because I was a big fan of Fedotov. I still am. I think he's got a ton of talent, but I don't know if the Flyers can currently swallow the learning curve that he might need.
And I think it's the same. It's a shame that Kolosov seemingly does not want to play in Lehigh because he is still so young and he still has a lot of potential. But he just is not ready. He hurts the team when he's playing in Philadelphia because if they could just I didn't read Kevin's story either, but that basic premise, if you just get league average goaltending, double-digit improvement in points, if the Fedotov or Kolosov gave just under league average goaltending, it would have been an entirely different season the last 2 years for the Flyers. I know 2 years ago was a little bit different, murky in the goaltending situation, but you had Ersan and Fedotov and Kolosov at the very, very end, and wheels just fell off the wagon.
Well, it resulted in Porter Martone, so it was a very worthwhile wheels falling off the wagon there.
Yeah,
at the end of the season. Flyers with limited cap space, they have just under 400,000 according to Puckpedia. Ryan Ellis, $6.5 million LTIR eligible. You've got Fedotov's $3.5 million can get buried in the AHL or could be a tradable contract. It's a 1-year deal. So I'm sure Danny will still be looking for what's out there on the free agent market. Something may shake loose, but this very well might be the Flyers team that you're looking at going into training camp come September.
I think this might be, at a very minimum, the backbone of what the Flyers head into with next season. I think you meant Danny might not exactly be done. You mentioned Fedotov being a possible tradable contract with just 1 year left, or maybe they find a way to move Kolosov, or maybe one of those wingers that they have so many of. They might try to find a way to move off, or even possibly packaging a ton of picks to try to get off of Ryan Ellis's contract to a team that's just trying to hit the salary cap floor.
At this point, I would not. I mean,
I would not bank on that one bit, but
yeah,
you could sure try.
I wouldn't package any picks to get rid of that. I would just eat the $2 million for the $6 million for the next 2 years, because oh man, it just scares me the way they traded Ghost Steel and then packaged the second round pick alongside just to get rid of it, and then all of a sudden he's one of the best offensive defensemen in the game for the next 3 years.
Ryan Ellis.
But yeah, no, it's
nonetheless.
Sorry.
I was just gonna say I think Danny might not be. He might be done adding, but I don't think he'd be done finding ways to create space to be able to just work around the roster and see what he can do with what you said, under 400,000, just under 400,000.
Yeah, right now.
Yeah, it's not a whole lot of space to do a whole lot with. So
next off season is definitely a little brighter. You got $5 million of cap holds coming off. Kevin Hayes, $3.5 million comes off the books. Scott Lawton's $1.5 million comes off the cap hold, and then the buyout for Cam Atkinson and his $1.75 million deal all come out. So that's an added $8 million to a salary cap that's going up. So it's looking rosy for the cap picture entering 2026 for the Flyers. So we'll see what this season brings. So 15 minutes. We've gotten to where I've wanted to, and now we can kind of transition to what I'm really excited to talk to you about. And that's a bit of breaking news last night. I'm going to give the credit to who I saw it first from. That's Cam Robinson from Elite Prospects. And that is potential 2026 first overall pick, Gavin McKenna, reportedly going to your alma mater, Penn State University. How exciting.
It had to happen a year.
Penn State, the year after he graduates.
Yikes. Had to have happened.
Probably the biggest prospect signing in Penn State history. I saw a tweet. I'll give him a shout out. Ben_Jones88. Don't know who he is, but he was like, once official, Gavin McKenna to Penn State men's hockey is like Penn State football getting commitment from Saquon Barkley and knowing that he's already Saquon. I thought that was an absolute wonderful way to put that. As Gavin McKenna finds his way to Happy Valley. Your thoughts?
I personally love that that Ben Jones tweet too, that he added once official, because look,
that is true. It's not official until 6 o'clock tonight.
Such an odd landscape where it's become people saying people have committed and then no, they haven't. Once the player posts about it, it'll fully sink in. But when you have Cam Robinson talking about it happening and others confirming as well, you kind of know what's going on.
You have NIL contracts that are now probably signed as well. That
and
kind of makes a big difference in that.
When you have ballpark of ranges and amounts being circulated, you start knowing that things are becoming more and more real, and it's exciting. Getting Gavin McKenna changes that program forever. That Frozen Four run has changed that program forever. I don't know how many Penn State fans are viewers of this show, but blocked by Allen, scooped by Haley, that Matthew DeMarco goal is the same exact thing. Like that overtime goal against UConn and Allentown Regional to send them to the Frozen Four. Like that was the moment that things turned around for Penn State men's hockey, and all of a sudden they've become a destination. It's been almost a little quiet just because they're not one of the top programs. There aren't and never have been a college hockey blue blood. They probably will never, as far as historic programs go, rank next to a BU or a BC or a Michigan or even Minnesota. But now all of a sudden you're starting to see a program that has established a really good culture where guys want to come play for that current coach, Guy Godowski. They want to be a part of that locker room. You see that culture that's being built. You see the insane facilities that Terry Pegula put a lot of money into over there at Penn State. Penn State's slowly but surely becoming a hockey destination, and with Gavin McKenna reportedly choosing to come to Penn State, whether money has to do with anything or not, will surely change the direction of that program forever.
Yeah, Terry Pagula. I actually have this question here in bold. Is Pagula Ice Arena big enough for Gavin McKenna?
I can share it for you right now.
Holds what? It holds 5,000, I believe, the actual size of the rink. I know that Penn State has played before at formerly Wells Fargo Center, now Xfinity Mobile Arena. They've also played it the NCAA games. They kind of got lucky that those were placed in Allentown. But there are some local venues that Penn State might be able to utilize if they think that the ticket sales are worthwhile for potentially some of those bigger matchups. And this is all hyperbole. I don't know the contract status. I don't know what they're required to play at Pagula Ice Arena versus not. But you know, it seems like a. But then again, I say all of that, and Gavin McKenna played in Medicine Hat last year, so you know, it kind of is the state of college hockey.
Look, I will say this as far as playing games at Pagula Ice Arena. I told my dad he better make sure his season ticket prices don't change much from what they are right now, because I have an odd feeling that prices are going to go up like crazy.
Oh, they absolutely should.
Pagula Ice Arena is just one of those arenas that it's small, but it's what makes it such a special place, because the energy in that building is just insane. Like, it is one of the most unreal experiences. I mean, nothing will ever beat Beaver Stadium. But Pagula Ice Arena, even before this program was what it is now, was by far the second best environment at Penn State. It is just unreal. It's such a cool place. I did make the joke. They're definitely going to need a bigger press box.
Oh, yeah. They're going to need it. They're going to have a Gavin McKenna wing on the press box after this season. Just because they're going to need to expand it for him and the coverage and the attention he's going to bring to Penn State University.
And as someone that spent 2.5 years covering that team, that press box was just big enough for the student media. I can't imagine what they're going to need for all the national media that's coming in.
Absolutely. So Gavin McKenna to Penn State, extremely exciting for Pennsylvania hockey, for just hockey fans in this area, that somebody that seems to be on a superstar track towards NHL. You know, right now projected to be the top overall pick, although I should have written the name down. I want to say it's Verhoff, right-handed defenseman, definitely chomping at his heels, and second spot in those rankings. So it's going to be interesting to see how that all plays out.
He's headed to NODAC too.
To North Dakota. North Dakota. Okay, so there you go. So if you haven't watched NCAA hockey before, this is absolutely going to be the season to tune in for it. Between all of the stars that you're going to have at Michigan State, with Caden Lindstrom going there from the OHL. They had another big name that had signed in Michigan State. Penn State adding. Michigan's always good. Boston College and Cole Hudson, and it's just names across the board in the NCAA this season when that season rolls around. It's extremely exciting stuff.
It's the Big Ten is gonna start feasting with all of these, with the new era of college hockey.
There you go. The new era of college hockey at Penn State is here. And new era of Flyers hockey is starting to see the building blocks put in place by Danny Briere. We kind of covered everything about the Flyers offseason a bit earlier in the show. So it's a bit of the dead period in the offseason. But we're still writing. That's kind of how our jobs work. So tell the fine folks where they can find your stuff there.
Head over to PhiladelphiaFlyers.com or at WMJ Sports on Twitter or X.
There you go. So, Will, James, thanks very much for stopping by. And we'll be back to wrap up Shoot Another Flyers show right after this. Wow, I did all of that with the mic muted. Awesome. Thank you very much for Will James for stopping by. ESPN a bit slow on their broadcast. We're supposed to come on at 6 o'clock, but it is now official. Gavin McKenna to Penn State, to Hockey Valley, as it is being called. So very exciting stuff for Penn State University there. Gritty question and answers. We had Lexi check in on Twitter. Who impressed you the most from 2025 Flyers development camp? Thank you very much to Lexi for the question. Alex Bump, a pretty easy answer. Charlie O'Connor put it out earlier in the week that he seemed like the best player on the ice. I would definitely agree with that. Porter Martone definitely raised some eyes, which, you would expect he should as a top 3 player in the draft class. But the fact the Flyers got him at 6 is pretty fantastic value there. So those are the 2 people that I'm going to kind of look at potential spots in that forward crew come training camp in 6 weeks now? 7 weeks? Something like that. So it's an exciting time for the Flyers to kind of continue to look around the trade market. I wouldn't expect a ton to be done. There's not a ton of room unless the Flyers send outgoing salary in one of those trade discussions. So anything is possible, but I would expect that the team that you see on the Flyers roster page right now is most likely going to be the team that the Flyers take in at training camp and into the 2025-2026 season. And that will wrap it up for the 28th edition of Shoot Another Flyer Show. Once again, my name's Chris Babos. I'm with Philadelphia Sports Network in Metro Philadelphia. You can also find me at The Hockey Writers, where I primarily cover the Washington Capitals at this point. For PSN in Metro Philadelphia, you can find me doing this lovely Flyer show here, Shoot Another Flyer Show, as well as covering the Philadelphia Phillies and the Philadelphia Eagles. So we try to be a multi-sport superstar around these parts and cover as much as we can get out to. So thanks for hanging in there with me. Some wicked storms outside, so everybody stay safe in the Delaware Valley area. And we'll come right back to you next week for the 29th edition of Shoot Another Flyer Show. Have a wonderful week, everybody.
Want you to bleed for me.